Good evening, everyone. My video today is going to be based around gods, who they are, what they are, where they came from. It's been a subject I've been thinking a lot of lately. I've always been, how would you say, fascinated or intrigued about mythology, ancient history. And lately, I've done journeys before on different subjects that has got me to the understanding that gods come from more than one place. And what are they exactly? Some could be alien beings. That's one of the hypotheses that have come forward with Egyptian gods. My understanding that the Egyptian gods, as we know it, came from a society of beings that could shapeshift. And they've left. They're no longer here. Doesn't mean they don't look at the earth from a distance, from afar, and even have ways to physically be here. Because there's so much that we don't understand, we don't know about the universe and about what is going on around us. Because our own governments, our own scientists, ourselves in general are very, very misinformed about what is going on. There's so much misinformation that how do you even know what is real anymore? And that's what I find very sad, is the world is full of misinformation. And purposely, people put out misinformation purposely. And some people believe that what they understand and what they see is 100% correct. But I know when I do journeys that you interpret the energy a specific way. I interpret it a specific way towards myself. But this is an understanding of me and what I experience. Does that mean that everything I see is 100% accurate? Not necessarily. Because when you look into energy, it's all based on what my experiences and my understanding are. And nothing should be taken literally to the point where it's 100% written in stone. Even an event that happens on the earth where you could have 20 people see the same thing and have 20 different versions of events. This is the problem with knowledge, about history, about understanding. But when you purposely manipulate people, that is what's really concerning to me. It's okay to look at something and interpret it a certain way, because everybody has their own way of looking at things, their own way of understanding. So when I go into a journey state, the spirit shows me information that my mind can understand. Now, does that mean it's going to look exactly the way they're showing me? No, of course not. Because I'm getting information that could be so complex that is completely dumbed down for my physical mind to understand. My soul probably understands it 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times better than me. Because there's so much attached to that information that I can't possibly relay to everyone. So just remember that. Every time you watch a video, every time you watch someone else speak, every time you hear a person's opinion, it is their opinion on what they see and what they interpret. And that's fascinating to the world. It makes it a very diverse place to live in. But it also can create conflict when you get egos involved that say, I'm right and you're wrong, and I am right and I'm going to kill you for thinking something different. And that's where the problems we run into. And all the stories about religion, about gods, about spirituality, there's so much conflict about who is right and who is wrong. But really, was that what was meant to be? Or is that our way of controlling people, our way of manipulating people? Were the stories real? And if they were real, who is interpreting that information? And how is that information being given to the populace at the time? Was there manipulations involved? Was there control systems put in place? Very much so. Many, 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 many times in history, religious leaders, spiritual leaders, philosophers have manipulated people to get what they want. And that, to me, is sad. And this is one of the things I want to go into. When I say that Egyptian gods were an alien race, that is my understanding of what I experienced. Am I right? I leave that up to you. Because how am I supposed to prove it? And if I was wrong, I'm not going to take it personally. And that's the difference between me and a lot of other people. And that's why I'm so open-minded to many different diverse and understandings, because I don't hold everything I say and do to 100%, because it can't possibly hold up to 100% in anyone's mind. Because everybody thinks differently. Everybody interprets things differently, sees things differently, understands things differently. But I do tell what I see. I don't manipulate people, and I don't make shit up. It's what I actually interpret the energies to be. And that is what I do. And I can't speak for other people. But I do know there is people out there that will lie, manipulate people to get what they want. I'm simply stating what I experience and what I have experienced and my understanding of those experiences. And that's what I hope everybody else is doing as well. Because that's when the world will become a beautiful place. I'm going to close my eyes because I could talk all night long, and that's not what I'm here to do. I want to close my eyes and I want to ask that question. Who are the gods? Where did they come from? What is a god? And we all know that this is a complicated question because there's so many gods. Or is there? A lot of people believe that there is one God and everything comes from that. But what is God? But that's not what I want to... I don't want to go into what God, the one God is. I want to talk about the gods of mythology, history. I see a golden ribbon, and I see a being that has this golden ribbon, and he cuts the ribbons one at a time and blows it out like fairy dust. And this is it's a beautiful thing to watch. And he does this throughout, like he just does it, and like he's cutting it and blowing it out into the universe. Nakina. He is speaking almost like with a rhythm, with a like almost singing it. He's just cutting this ribbon. And when he sings, when he speaks and sings in this language, he's cutting the ribbons with an understanding, with a purpose. And this ribbon is special because this ribbon is limited. And he cuts the final part of the ribbon and sends it out to the universe. He says, "These are my children. These are this is my essence." And he sends this out, and he falls back like in a throne, but it's not a throne. It's just like a seat. And as he does this, there's a blue light that appears around him, and he falls. And it's like this blue light just absorbs around him, and then that he's gone. This took a lot of energy, it seemed like, to do this. So he was drained temporarily when he did this. And I see him doing it again, but this time it is blue energy. And he keeps doing this and retires for some time, comes out and does it again and again and again. And I notice that now the ribbons are becoming thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner, but longer and more of them. So when he cuts a ribbon, it bursts out to many, 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 many different types of things. And it's like he's sending this to the universe, and he does this until the universe is full. And he says the gods were the golden ribbons. The first ones, but there's also other gods as well that could be considered gods when the ribbons were thicker. And then as the ribbons faded out and got thinner and thinner and thinner, they weren't any less amazing, but they weren't given the vastness that the golden energies were. And you could say that the angels were created the same way. In a way, angels are like gods, but they're not. They're different. They're unique. But it's like the gods themselves were able to create beings as well, because they are all part of God. They are part of the one source. They came from the golden ribbon, and some came from the blue ribbon, and so on. There were some, though, that were like the first ones that were cut from the ribbon were very vast. And he says that one God can be in many, many places at one time. And he says sometimes they don't even know they're gods because they're not attached to the main source of who they are. And that is part of the learning, is part of the understanding. So all along, when we say gods, we're actually speaking about God, a part of him, but it's a specific essence of him. And he could say that the angels are gods, and you could say that the human race are gods. He says they're all amazing and beautiful. And he shows me that there's some human beings that already surpassed the first ribbon cutting of the golden essence of gods. Some gods fell into, it's almost like some gods didn't quite work out the way he intended, and they are trapped. The main source of their essence is trapped within. He says it's best way to simply say trapped, confined. He speaks of one specific source it was like the god of the darkness, he says. No, it's not the darkness, it's the space between the stars. It was like, it was the god of the void. It's what he prescribed. He says the void. He says there is a void energy. It's not darkness, but it's just absence of light. Entirely no light at all. It is the void. It is where everything goes. It has no hope. Hope is the wrong word. When all the light has gone from a soul, it is put into the void. And there is a being that controls the void. And it didn't quite work out the way God intended. So when we look at the gods, say Zeus, I honestly say Zeus, the word Zeus, what comes up when I speak that? He shows me many faces of what we would say Zeus would be. And it's not just Zeus. There's many beings or many people on earth that would give him a different name. And it's interesting because there's even angels, like archangels, that are mixed up with this. It's interesting because even like it's like we have the word angels and archangel, but an archangel can also be considered and be messed up with the understanding of gods, because some cultures could see an archangel and think it's an angel, and other ones would call it a god. And that has happened on this earth and also as other places in the universe. So it's like, it's simply not, a god is not simply just here on earth. It is in other places. So when I say the Egyptians are from an alien race, and it's like basically saying that is correct in your understanding. They came here on a ship from somewhere else in this galaxy, not from another galaxy. It was this one. But there is not as many gods as people think, but there is many. But then this is the golden, it's almost like very few beings know of the golden first ribbon cutting. These gods are ancient, and almost nobody knows about them. It's the ones that came after that are known, because the ones that are old are so old. It's like it's kind of like if they're here, you would never know who they were, and you wouldn't even know that you were one of those gods, because they have already, part of the understanding of learning is to not know who and what you are. So when you come, there is some of these gods on this earth, but you would say their god would be like a millionth of the essence of what they were, or a trillionth of the essence. It is like, it's like taking an atom out of a god and placing it on earth, and they're specifically made not to be known. They won't really know who they are. Even if they're told, they still have no ability to be anything else except John or Jane, Martha, Sarah, Lucas. I'm just throwing names out there. The names mean nothing, but that's the idea, is that they're meant to just be a human being, because that's just part of the learning of these gods, is to continually learn. God constantly wants to learn. And so when you speak of all living things in the universe, there is a consciousness that's connected to all of them, which what we would consider God. It's funny because it's very laughable how pathetic that sounds compared to what it really is. And that's kind of what I'm being told, is that for us to truly try to understand it is impossible. Because we're not meant to truly understand how things work in the universe. But the human beings on Earth have no idea who they truly are. Even if you knew who you truly were, you're not given the access, the abilities to become who you really are at this time. It doesn't mean that will not change in the future or in the past. That means in this point in history, what you are is who you are. What you will be or what you were or a different thing entirely. So gods are simply reflection of a part of God that has a specific it's like a specific aspect to them, a consciousness separate from God, but also part of God. And those beings that were first cut are now spread all over the multiverse. It's complicated because these beings are so vast, there's no way of truly understanding. And you could literally be a speck of that being and you wouldn't even know it. So when a god comes to this earth, or when a god is a part of another galaxy, has lots of, like, when it knows more of who it is, or is given the capability of more of their essence, then they become like a god. There's lots of alien races out there that are given more abilities, is the best way of putting it, than the human race does. But the human race don't know we don't know who we are. And you might be surprised when you find out. But don't forget that you're still Sarah, you're still John. You don't have the abilities of that God, of that essence. You are just an experiment, so to speak. But your higher self is that God. So we are, in a essence, all gods of some form. But there is gods that are older than others. So there is some form of understanding of age, of time. But it's more of a larger essence of what the source. So there's some beings that came from the source in much more powerful concentration. But it doesn't mean that they're any better or greater than anything else. But a lot of these gods, to learn, spread the parts all over the multiverse to learn constantly. So in essence, some of the most oldest beings in the universe are now the weakest. Until they pull all the parts together. And that's the thing we are capable of doing when we're not physically on this plane. Like, when we leave this plane, we have access to unlimited abilities, depending on who and what we are. But every human being, every soul, is unbelievably powerful. And it's beautiful. It's like when they're showing me the world and all the souls on the world, it's like they don't even know who they are. And this is kind of what is being said that you don't even know who you are. But that's the way it's supposed to be. And even if you're told who you are, which I've been told, and there's other souls that have as well, it is testing you. It is getting you to understand and control of your ego. Because even if you're told that you're this, you don't have the power of that. So be careful not to get lost in the belief that you're something wonderful and powerful and great. Because you are, but at the same time, you're still living on this physical reality, and you're limited to the confines of this space. Someday that will change. When you die, you have the ability to have access to everything that you are. So, I go back to the gods. Were the gods real? So nahi. The answer would be yes. And it's kind of a foolish question, because when we believe in something, it becomes real. That is the power of our souls. Were they walking physically on this earth? And this is a tricky question, because the gods understood the manipulation of where we come from. So they weren't confined to the understanding of our physical reality. They knew how to manipulate reality, which then is different from what we're confined to. So gods weren't confined to our understanding of reality. So what made them gods is the understanding of the things that keep us trapped in our confines of ourself. So we could consider them alien beings because they understood how to manipulate this reality. So they weren't simply trapped in this confines of this reality. So they could manipulate matter, for instance, and change it to something else. They can control aspects of this reality, because there really is nothing here except atoms and empty space. And obviously atoms are things go infinitely small and infinitely large. So what is an atom? Is just a representation of something that is small, and something that is made up that we know of, but we know there's things that are smaller than that. And we could, so there's no point bringing this up because it goes in every direction. But gods were able to manipulate our reality. And they would very much be like alien beings. And that's the best way to describe them. Is that what they truly are? Not necessarily, because they are also interdimensional beings. But for soul, the reasoning of what a god or who a god was, alien beings are a good way of putting it, because there are beings that could augment our reality. And that is something that we are not able to do in our present form and understanding. But they did teach people to do what they did. And they say things like strength is again an understanding of how to manipulate reality. Controlling things, transformation is all and what they're saying is that we do have the ability within ourselves to change reality, but we just don't understand it anymore. We've forgotten it. At one time we were better at it than we are now. And they could simply say that at one time we were all gods that came to this earth and then forgot who we were. You could say that we come from heaven, but we forgot where heaven was. We even created an artificial heaven that isn't real. And we forgot where heaven truly is. And there's only a few people that are given the memory to know where that truly is. What they're telling me that our reality is an illusion, created to learn and grow and understand. It's like a video game, but we forgot how to end it. We're trapped in a loop. Even when we die, most people are trapped in a misunderstanding of where to go. They don't even know where to go. They're telling me that there's people that do understand where to go, but there's a lot of people that do not. So they keep going in a circular loop, and they can't find their way out of it. So people come here that remember, that try to teach people how to find their way back out of this reality. But people don't listen. It's like our true selves, who we truly are watching us to try to get us to remember who and where we came from. But it is part of the game, because part of the game is remembering who we are. And that's why sometimes when you remember who you are, life becomes much more difficult. Because so many other people don't. And that's when life gets really hard. Thank you very much, everyone. And if you wish to do a journey with me, you can visit my website at amonrasawakening.com. You can also visit my Northern Light pages at Joseph Bradley Auroras or HiddenAuroraSpirits.com. And please take a look at my website. Let me know what you think. And thank you very much for everything. This is an interesting journey we are on. But always remember to speak the truth of what you are and what you know, and help as many people as you can. But do not judge them. Just help them. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.